Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything going on in the world of sports. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Let me talk to you. Coming in with more hits than Drake and Kendrick Lamar combined. Combined.
We might have to talk about that on the Patreon.
We might.
I'm just putting that out there. It's been a very crazy week in the world of hip-hop, and it's also been a very crazy week in the world of sports, and that's what you've tuned into on this edition of the ODPH, and we definitely want to get those conversations started and keep them going after the show. So, Pad, where does everybody go after the show?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Right on. Swing on over to the website, sign up for all the social media accounts, interact with us on each and every one that you preference, because we are definitely growing the follower count on all accounts, and we definitely like to have those conversations with everybody. Also, check out the TeePublic store link. There's a lot of stuff happening on the store.
Yes.
So if you want to get some ODPH swag for con season, no better time to get it when it's on sale. So definitely make sure you're checking out the link and catch it when it's on a good deal. We always say we try promoting it when it's on sale, because it means the world to us that you just go support us in that manner. So, you know, we don't want you to pay full price if you can help it. Mm-hmm. But if you want to, hey, by all means, go ahead, do you. Also, speaking of supporting us on a manner, shout out to all our amazing patrons. One tier, $2 a month, patreon.com/ODPH podcast. And like I say, bonus content is always hooked up to you, whether you get an early episode released a week and a half early, depending on what it is. We try hooking that up for you. So definitely shout out to all our amazing patrons. You can find their link and see who they are and join the cool kids. It's right there on the homepage as well. Also, check out the blog section. We're always dropping reviews left and right. The Classifieds, which has friends of the show such as 3FM Podcast, Dragon Master Games, Nerd Initiative, and many, many more. The Directory, where, Pat, how many providers are we on?
202,995.
I don't question it, because he is a statistician to the stars.
Source? Trust me, bro.
Exactly. So, that being said, drop a review of the show and let us know how you think we were doing here on your favorite podcast, podcatcher, if you will. Whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, it's on there. So definitely go hook that up. Let us know what you listen to us on, too. We always like to hear where it's coming from. And also, speaking of hearing, you want great music? Check out the music section of the show, where you can find such great bands as Brian Wolf and the Howlers, Floodlands, Second Suitor, Tom Jolu, killing it left and right here in the 607. Second Suitor, like I say, the list goes on and on and on. Basically, if it's anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at ODPHpodcast.com. And always remember on social media to use the hashtag ODPHpod. Pat, what do you feel like kicking this episode off with?
Why don't we talk one of the craziest events of the weekend? WWE Backlash.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, so of course this past Saturday, real early for us here stateside from what we're used to, but hey, I'm not complaining. From Lyon, France, was WWE Backlash, the latest pay-per-view from PLE from the WWE, taking place in beautiful France. First of all, shout out to the crowd.
Yes.
Because holy good goddamn, the Friday night before, the episode of SmackDown was pre-taped over there in France. It aired live over in Europe, but it was on a tape delay over here in the States. That crowd was loud from the get-go, because if you had not seen or had not heard, Triple H shared a photo somebody had sent to him either through text message or social media or whatever. And he said, quote, "The WWE Universe literally received a warning about the noise level tonight at SmackDown." He then tagged the Arena Twitter account. "Absolutely insane. Like Motorhead said, only way to feel the noise is when it's good and loud," close quote. And he included a photo, and I can attest to this, of somebody's Apple Watch. Now, the thing, if you don't have an Apple Watch, is when the noise, it always keeps track of the noise level, just for your hearing safety's sake, and also for environment sake. Like if you're in a loud environment, it'll warn you, hey, you know, this environment's a little too loud. If you stay here too long, prolonged exposure is damaging to your ears.
Right.
And that's what this person who took a photo of their Apple Watch, it's obviously in French, but I've read the notification myself because I've had it a couple times. But it's warning the person that the sound level has exceeded 100 decibels, which isn't threshold of pain, but I want to say that's around, say, like a lawnmower. It's loud enough. So the crowd from Friday, already raucous enough as is, but then as we saw for this, chanting almost nonstop for the entire show.
Well, you have to put this in consideration, though. we here in the United States are very spoiled with the amount of times we get to see the WWE or pro wrestling in general.
Yes.
Sure, pro wrestling organizations are all over the world, but there's only one WWE. When it comes to town, it is an event. And especially in the international markets.
Where this was the first ever, pay-per-view, premium live event, whatever you want to call it, in France. Yes, they've had house shows, but they've never had something broadcasted over there.
Right. Those fans were going to be excited because finally they're part of the big show. And for events like this, they want to make sure they show up and show out.
Yep.
We saw this last year with Backlash in Puerto Rico.
Yep.
And we've seen this when they've gone over to the castle shows.
Yeah.
Over in
in England with Wales and Scotland this upcoming year.
Yep. So they have been testing out the international markets more and more.
Yep.
Even just recently going to Perth, Australia for Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, and they're doing Berlin in June, somewhere around there.
So when the WWE is going to these markets that they do go to at least once a year.
Yep.
When they go with the big production, the fans are just that more excited to be there. And we saw on Friday Night SmackDown, everybody was really amped up.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, everyone was astounded at the chanting and the cheering and how long it was going. And I realize not everyone watches soccer, and I've picked up on it the last 2 years or so. But that's the thing with soccer is those soccer matches go for real minutes at least 90. And I've seen some go longer. I know there was a Liverpool match this year that went 2 hours.
Yeah,
real time. That's not counting the halftime time where then it pushes it over 2 hours. These fans are used to this, and now it's obviously not the whole time straight, but it dips and flows. These folks are used to it, so I was like, yeah, I'm on board with this. This is awesome. Shout out to them. And the thing we heard from the press conference after the thing, it sounds like Italy's not far behind them.
No, I think that the WWE knows with Nick Khan and Triple H running the show, there is a market to go over here. They want an excited fan base. They're going to sell out no matter what.
Yeah, what was it? They said the Friday SmackDown was the largest gate in SmackDown history. Yes, even beating the one from a month ago.
Yeah.
What was it? Pre or post WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And then they said that the Backlash itself it set the record for the largest arena gate in company history. And that's going all the way back to the start of the company.
But it goes back to the whole premise. When the WWE comes to town, especially in international markets,
Yep.
the fans are going to show up and they're going to show out.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I'm not super shocked that they're setting records. I think this is something that Vince didn't really want to tamper with when he was in charge.
Well, the what is it? The thing ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, he was in his ways, and that's what it was. But it's a new era, and definitely a lot of excitement going into this card. So let's break it down.
So the card started off hot because it was the tag match between the Bloodline with Solo Sikoa and the MFT, the Mother Effin' Tama Tonga, obviously with Paul Heyman in their corner, taking on the team of Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. This match started about how you figured it would. Bell didn't even ring, and they're just beating the holy hell out of each other. Nick Aldis comes out and goes, listen, that ain't how this is going to go down. We're going to give these people what they want. They came here to see a fight. They're going to get a fight. And then he said it in French, but, we've all kind of figured out what it was. They then turned it into a street fight.
Yep.
So, okay, anything goes. And then for the next 19 minutes and 25 seconds, they started beating the holy hell out of each other. Garbage cans, which, gotta say, they build and then tables. And I gotta say, kudos to the table builders over in France. Y'all build your tables very well.
Yeah.
Those things split cleanly in half. Kendo sticks were dragged out. Chairs were dragged out. At one point, Kevin Owens gave, I can't remember if it was Solo or Ty. I want to say it was Solo. Gave Solo a brain buster through the chairs. Oh my God. But then the surprise of all surprise, we were all expecting Jacob Fatu to show up, the other Fatu brother. But it wasn't Fatu.
No, it was not.
Who was it?
Tonga Loa.
Oh my God, what is Camacho doing back in WWE?
We have Gorillas of Destiny in WWE now.
Oh, baby.
I am trying to contain my excitement for this.
Just real quick, the Bloodline obviously won via pinfall in the 19 minutes, 25 seconds that I alluded to.
Yes. With my head cold and me losing my voice partially during this match.
Because literally everyone and their mother was expecting Jacob Fatu.
Well, yeah, we knew that Jacob has signed with WWE. That's very open news.
Yeah, that's news. And whenever Tongaloa got brought up, everyone's like, oh, there's a shot he could go over there. But everyone was under the belief that he was still under contract with New Japan.
Mm-hmm. So it was a tremendous surprise to see him come in.
Uh-huh.
The crowd was definitely excited.
Yep.
Anybody that watches New Japan Pro Wrestling lost their minds.
Mm-hmm.
Yours truly.
Yeah, I can verify.
Yeah. So the fact that we have God now in WWE is huge.
God versus the Usos when?
Oh, that's coming. Mark my words. That could be SummerSlam.
Could be.
The only questions I have now with that is, one, are they allowed to keep their old theme music? Because they need to. Two, are we going to be setting up for War Games at that moment?
I mean, at this point, yes. It feels pretty obvious to me that it's setting up for Bloodline Civil War 2 with, the new Bloodline 2.0, we'll call them, between Solo, Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, and then I'm presuming at this point Jacob Fatu goes in on their side. Well, and then on the other side, you would have Roman come back with Jimmy, Jay, and then presumably Sammy.
Well, that's the whole thing. We don't know.
Right.
There's a lot of...
They're real good at swerving us these days.
There's a lot of different ways they can
Case
go
in
with
point, this match.
Yeah, because what we think is going to eventually happen is a Survivor Series.
Right, because even the thing that happened later in the site, because you can tell they're setting up storylines and just little pieces for down the road with this, because after this match was over, in between one of the matches, I can't remember which one it was, but they showed Jey Uso warming up backstage. He was doing like arm curls or something, and you saw Tama Tonga, Solo, and Tongaloa go walking by, and nobody said a word, but it spoke volumes without speaking a word. And then Paul Heyman went by, and Paul Heyman's paused. And I don't know what he did or if he's just that good an actor, but with tears in his eyes, looked longingly at Jey Uso as almost to say, fucking help me.
Yeah.
Like, this is getting so far out of control, I can't handle it.
Well, like we say, the Bloodline storyline is got a whole new breath of fresh air with it.
When I was kind of like a little bit checked out on it, I'm not going to lie. The stuff with Cody, all in. Anything kind of like, I was there, but like I wasn't fully in. I was kind of like 1 foot out the door, 1 foot in the door. Now, both feet are in the door.
Well, it all goes back to what Roman and The Rock have been setting up for. Like they've been the basis of the Bloodline storyline more so than Cody.
Sure.
So now they're on that final chapter, we presume.
Well, who knows at this point?
Well, that's the whole thing. There's still a big interest behind it.
We know how large this family is. This could go a while.
Well, it just depends on what they want to do with it. And I think ultimately it comes down to Survivor Series.
Yeah, I do too.
And then I think maybe next year, Rock versus Roman at Mania.
Yeah, you could easily set that up. So if you do end up doing Bloodline Civil War 2, the two factions, like I mentioned, Bloodline 2.0 versus Bloodline 1.0. And then you get to the end, and when you're least expecting it, although if it does set up this way, I think everyone will be expecting it. Rock's music hits, and he comes out and he costs Roman the win at Survivor Series. Because Survivor Series, what is it again?
War Games.
Thank you. And that sets it easily enough for WrestleMania.
Yeah, like I say, we're going to see a lot more going into it. I mean, I already got my theories for King of the Ring.
Okay.
And I think Solo messes up Jimmy's win.
Probably.
So they'll do something there. That'll really get the ball rolling. So I think we'll just have to wait
Probably.
to see. But great way to start the show.
Yeah.
Next match.
Next match was a triple threat for the WWE Women's Championship, with Bayley defending her belt against Naomi and Tiffany Stratton, and winning via pinfall in 13 minutes and 10 seconds was Bayley.
Well, this was a great match.
Yeah.
Timing was off a little bit in the beginning.
Yeah. It seemed like they were off just a half step.
Yeah, which, I mean, it could have been the crowd got in their heads a little bit. Which, listen, it happens because with that kind of reaction, the wrestlers were definitely feeding off the energy. So, and when you have a crowd that loud, it does mess with you a little bit, even no matter how professional you are. This happens every time. So, to see, though, they rebounded. I thought Tiffany Stratton had a breakout performance.
Again, yes.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's not sold on how she's going to be a future world champion.
Tiffy time, baby.
Yeah. I mean, it's an afterthought at this point. Like she's a future world champion, no question.
Oh, absolutely.
Naomi was great in this match.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I think her going away and going to TNA to wrestle in the Knockouts division, she's really come back and just been a whole different wrestler. And it's amazing to see, because I thought she was great before.
Oh yeah.
Now it's like she's put on just
She's on a whole new level.
Yeah, like I say, I hope that she gets a feud straight up with her and Tiffy.
I could see it.
Just straight up.
Could see it.
Let them go.
Yeah, I don't know where they're going to go from here, but this match certainly, I wasn't real high on it. I was going to it should be a good match, but it exceeded my expectations. So definitely shout out to these folks.
Yes.
Next up was a singles match for the World Heavyweight Championship with Damian Priest defending his belt against main event Jey Uso. And you had Damian Priest emerge victorious, defeating Jey Uso via pinfall in 15 minutes, 45 seconds, although he had a little help. Finn Balor showed up. JD McDonough showed up. I don't think Dom showed up because arm, but the other two did show up, and much to the dismay of one Damian Priest because he explicitly told him, "I don't need help."
Yeah. Well, I think the big thing here was we knew how this was going to end. It just
The crowd was going to go nuts.
Yeah, it just depends on who is going to be the cause of the interference. Mm-hmm. And I think that now they're slowly piecing away.
Yeah.
The Judgment Day breakup.
The hints are there.
Or at least Damian Priest leaving.
I think, yeah.
I mean, I could see Finn taking that over. I mean, they could even do a big swerve that nobody's talking about. Mm-hmm. They could replace Damian with Jacob Fatu. Like, everybody thinks Bloodline, but I don't doubt that he goes there.
I could see it.
It could happen.
Could see it.
I mean, wishful thinking.
Yeah.
GOD goes there. They reform the Bullet Club proper.
I mean, that was kind of my thought at some point. Maybe not this year, but maybe some point next year is after the Bloodline stuff plays out, after whatever they do with Judgment Day plays out. Finn Balor asks for a trade, or maybe he gets drafted and he gets sent over to SmackDown, and he reunites with some former Good Brothers, and then he reunites with some former other Bullet Club members, and he remakes whatever the hell they're going to call it in WWE.
I would say this. This would be a wild prediction. But it's not out of the realm of thought. Okay. With Triple H and Nick Khan being very, very open to do business with New Japan.
That is true.
I'm not down they don't get the license for Bullet Club.
I could see him paying a fee. I could see him paying a fee.
Yeah, they'll do something like that.
Like they just say, hey, we want to do this. What's the fee? And then if they choose to do merch, we'll split it. 75-25 New Japan.
Yeah, they'll
cut a merch deal with New Japan for the shirt, and they'll give New Japan the bulk of the sales.
Well, that's the whole thing that they do with AEW right now.
Right.
With Bullet Club Gold there.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not out of the realm of thought. And that's what I think. If they really want to go there, I mean, they could.
Yeah.
It would be huge.
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing with this is, like, they have a lot of doors open, and especially whatever they want to do with the Judgment Day. I think with Rhea being out right now, even though she's already rehabbing.
They're doing a mile with that story, and she's not even there.
Yeah.
Between with her and Liv Morgan, what Liv Morgan's doing behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yo, buddy.
Brilliance. Absolute brilliance.
So good.
So, yeah, so this match went as expected. Did not like the finish.
No.
Finish, unfortunately, I know what they were trying to go for, but it just did not look good.
Yeah.
So we just got to keep that in perspective, but solid match, and it definitely moves things forward.
Mm-hmm. Next up was the tag team match for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships with the champions Kabuki Warriors in Asuka and Kairi Sane defending their belt against Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. And you had the team of Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill emerge victorious, winning via pinfall in 17 minutes and 25 seconds to become your new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. And I got to say, this match was good. But out of the 5 that took place, this might have been, for me, the weakest. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it was bad, and I'm not saying, oh, this was awful. And if you're watching if you didn't catch the event live, skip this match. But just if you ask me to rank them from 5 to 1, this one's probably at the bottom. But that's just because the other ones were so much stronger.
Yeah, this one was a very easy match to follow.
I think it was a come down. I think they placed it as theoretically a come down match for the crowd. We're like, all right, let's breathe. They'll go get some food. They'll run to the bathroom. It'll give them a chance to be ready for the main event. Except the crowd didn't need a come down match. They were up for the entire show.
Well, like I said, I think this one was, I don't want to say the most predictable, but
sure.
But I think that everybody that was talking about predictions for this match or for this card, said and knew.
I thought it'd be Anu, but I wasn't going to be surprised if Kabuki Warriors were tamed.
Well, yeah,
it was one that I could see it going either way, and I'd be fine with it.
Well, they kind of tipped their hand a little bit, though.
Oh, yeah?
Well, you think about it. When it came to the draft,
right,
all the champions were staying put.
Right.
Well, why did the Kabuki Warriors go to Raw?
Oh, that's true.
They tipped their hand.
Oh, that's true.
So
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. So once that happened, it was like,
I thought the champions were immune from being traded.
That's exactly.
Huh.
But yeah, here we are.
Oh, now I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They weren't supposed to be drafted, but they were.
Gotcha.
So
I did not even catch that.
Yeah. So
wow.
So knowing that, this went exactly how I thought it was going to go, and that's not a bad thing. This match was very, very solid.
Yeah.
So we're not ripping on it by any stretch of the imagination.
It was good, but it's just if you ask us to rank, the match is 5-1 for me, bottom of the list.
Yeah, but
like I said, I'm not shitting on the match, and I'm not trying to say it was bad. It's just inevitably, as much as I love Star Wars, I've ranked the Star Wars movies on Letterboxd. Inevitably, one of them's got to be at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's the way it works.
It is what it works, but the only thing that you really take away from this is Jade Cargill getting better every time we see her in the ring, and the finishing sequence to hit her finisher.
Yeah.
That's the takeaway from this match.
Jesus Christ.
Incredible. Just wait till it's her and Bianca at Mania next year.
Oh, that'll
Mark
be
the tape.
amazing. And then your main event was for the WWE Undisputed Championship with Cody Rhodes defending his belt against the phenomenal AJ Styles. You had Cody Rhodes, emerge victorious, retaining his belt via pinfall in 27 minutes and 20 seconds. How nice was it to have a pay-per-view match? Because I know somebody online brought up that there was a Roman match from 2022, I think it was, against Matt Riddle where there was no interference. But we'll just stick with pay-per-views. How nice was it to have a main event of a match on a pay-per-view involving the main belt where there was not a ref bump and there were no shenanigans and run-ins? Oh my God, that was incredible.
Well, you have to consider who's involved.
True.
If they had a run-in here, this is Cody's first real big title defense. Mm-hmm. How does that look for him as champion?
Looks a little shitty.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be a little wearisome of his title reign.
Yeah. It's also not a good start.
Right. AJ comes in there. AJ is credible enough.
Also, fun fact, AJ Styles, the first and only wrestler to wrestle both Cody Rhodes and the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
That's a crazy stat.
That's a hell of a little feather in your cap.
Oh yeah, but
holy shit.
But that's why he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. We know he's on the end tour.
Yeah, he said he's got more years behind him than ahead of him.
Right. Which makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, the dude's been in WWE for this year for almost 10 years.
The crazy thing that everybody needs to realize, because this also came up on a couple of the social media accounts this week too.
Sure.
Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, and I don't know if Sami Zayn is in this same class too.
Okay.
They're all up for their contracts are going to be...
I know Kevin Owens said his is up in the next 9 months.
Yeah.
I don't know about Sammy, and I don't know about AJ.
But
I do know Kevin specifically spoke about it to an interview or something the other day, and he said he's got 9 months left.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm wrong, I apologize.
Right.
Like I say, I'm not trying to sensationalize anything.
Also, for anybody trying to make clicks out of fucking Kevin Owens' comments, fuck you. He goes on to say in that interview he doesn't envision himself going anywhere.
They're not going to go anywhere else.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but people saw this. People saw the interview, saw the headline, and literally everyone ran with it.
Well, just remember the last time. That's why I grouped Sammy in this conversation.
Sure.
Both of them had their contracts renewed
At the same time.
Yeah.
So in theory, yeah, they're up at the same time.
So that's where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
That we had, and that was even when he was teasing the Mount Rushmore coordinates on Twitter.
Right.
Yeah, which he knew what he was doing at the time. But then again, former regime.
Right.
In this new day and era, that you have AJ, Kevin, Sammy, a lot of that guard that came in at that time is now heading into, and it's crazy to think about, but nobody beats Father Time.
Right. They're heading into the twilight.
They're heading into that twilight eventually.
Yeah.
It makes sense for them to kind of just say, okay, what do we want to do here on the way out?
Right. Well, and I think AJ, whatever he chooses to do, because he said that his last contract was going to be his last, and then he re-upped for another couple more years.
Well, that's the whole thing.
I think this is truly it, and then he's done. He might sign a Legends deal and might appear occasionally for a Mania or for something when need be. Kind of like what Bully Ray does.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And then Kevin and Sammy, I think they might do one more. I think they can still go a couple more years. I don't see them going anywhere because, again, they're not always in the main event, but find me a stretch of the year where they weren't at least featured on television in some capacity. You probably have to go back to their NXT days.
Exactly.
And it's been a while.
Well, that's the whole point. That, their contract's coming up. Mm-hmm. And of course, we live in this day and age where if somebody says their contract is up,
oh my God, they're going to switch.
Everybody speculates, which is fine.
Yeah.
You can fantasy book all you want, but you got to take a look at the big picture. Mm-hmm. Kevin could have gone there a few years ago.
Yeah.
He opted not to.
Yep. And then he was in the main event of WrestleMania with Stone Cold.
Yeah, he main evented with Stone Cold. He main evented the following year.
During the old regime.
Yeah. He main evented with Sami Zayn against the Usos.
In one of the biggest tag matches of the decade.
Yeah. I think they're very happy where they are.
I would say so.
So, I mean, who knows? They could pull a Swerve and go if they want to.
Yeah.
Cool, more power to them.
Yeah.
I support the wrestlers. I watch everything. But where I'm going with this, though, ultimately is with AJ. Yeah, he is AJ Styles. He doesn't need a real big storyline. He has instant credibility wherever he wants to go. Mm-hmm. And especially in his new heel persona, I think they want to set up with him and Cody a nice program.
Yeah.
And I think that they're going to go follow this up again with a great match at the next show.
Probably.
I don't know what the stipulation would be.
Right.
But it could just be a straight up rematch and people will tune in.
It could be. I mean, next one is going to be King and Queen of the Ring.
Right.
Which is taking place on May 25th from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
Right. So, like I said, that being said, I can fully see them running it back.
Yeah, I could
just to have the match on the card.
Yeah.
It makes sense to do. And then you do a third match at some point. Mm-hmm. And then, that's the end of that feud. And then AJ does what AJ wants to do. And Cody, I feel, will be setting up for his next contender, which I'm going to just kind of spoil right now, I think is going to be Gunther.
Could be. Because after King and Queen of the Ring is Clash at the Castle, that is June 15th, for those of you keeping track at home.
Yeah. But, I mean, overall, like I said, this phenomenal match, no pun intended.
Yeah.
And
the match was amazing.
Yeah.
Cody did the taunt as Stardust.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Well, they knew what they were doing. This is what happens. You have two veterans in the game, and they know how to put on a show. And that's exactly what they did. It is in that match of the year discussion. I don't think it's going to win, but it's in that discussion. That's how good this card was, and that's how great that match was.
Yeah, this whole card was incredible. I know there was a high expectation after Puerto Rico last year, but folks in France, you more than surpassed Puerto Rico.
Yeah. So, like I say, France has set the bar very, very high.
Yeah.
I will say Monday Night Raw, the crowd was definitely doing their best to kind of try catching them.
Yeah, the crowd was lively.
Well, that's the whole thing. You want to go to a show, you want to make noise, you want to be involved. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what you get, and this is what's really going to make some interesting setups here.
Yeah.
I know King of the Ring we're going to discuss very briefly here because we did have some qualifying matches.
Yeah, so these are the first round matchups. You had Gunther versus Sheamus. Gunther emerged victorious in that, so he's moving on.
Amazing match.
They announced first they announced some of these matches were going to take place on the show, but then they announced, I think for timing purposes, that they were going to move to a live event, so a house show this upcoming week. One of those being Kofi Kingston taking on Rey Mysterio. Another match that took place last night is Ricochet versus Ilya Dragunov, with Ilya Dragunov emerging victorious in fucking match of the night for me.
Yeah.
God damn. Then you had Finn Balor, who was supposed to take on Drew McIntyre, but because Drew McIntyre opened his big Scottish mouth and said that he's injured and that he's been working injured. Adam Pearce had medical look at his elbow, and WWE Medical then said, hey, his elbow is not good. He's not medically cleared. So that disqualified him from the tournament. So he threw a fit with Adam Pearce, and Adam Pearce is like, why are you mad at me? You opened your mouth to the world and told everyone you're hurt. I had them look at it, and they confirmed what you said.
Yeah.
So he was disqualified, and Finn Balor thought he was going to get a first round bye. And admittedly, as a Finn Balor guy, I was real excited for that. I'm like, fuck yeah. I got to admit, I was hoping he'd win I didn't think, but I was hoping he'd win the whole thing because I'd love to see, Prince crossed out and then King underneath it on a shirt. That'd be amazing. But it did not happen because replacing Drew McIntyre was main event Jey Uso, who emerged victorious, winning via pinfall. Some of the other matches we got going on for SmackDown are AJ Styles and Randy Orton, Baron Corbin versus Carmelo Hayes.
That is interesting.
That's a sleeper match.
That's very, very interesting. Corbin's been putting in solid work in NXT.
Yeah.
That's going to be Carmelo Hayes all day, though.
Oh, absolutely.
And then him and AJ probably in the next round.
Oh, yeah. Then you've got L.A. Knight.
Yeah.
Taking on Santos Escobar. And then lastly, and certainly not leastly, you've got Bobby Lashley taking on the MFT, Tama Tonga.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Huh.
Yep. Then in the women's side, Queen of the Ring tournament, SmackDown not announced yet, as I'm reading off this list, but the Raw side was announced. And you had Shayna Baszler, who's supposed to take on Zelina Vega. That one is taking place at a house show later this week. Then you had Io Sky take on Natalya. which Io Sky won that one and moved on to the next round. Then you had Dakota Kai take on Lyra Valkyria. This was originally supposed to be Asuka, but I guess she's injured, so Dakota Kai took her place. Lyra Valkyria emerged victorious to move on to the next round in the tournament. Then you had Ivy Nile take on Zoe Stark, and Zoe Stark emerged victorious. So in the next round, it is Lyra Valkyria versus Zoe Stark.
Yeah, very solid matches on Raw.
Yeah,
very, very
good. A
solid.
lot of good matches.
Yeah. There's a lot of takeaway, too, as now we start shifting for the King and Queen of the Ring tournament. So they're going to definitely start ramping up because obviously the next real big pay-per-view is going to be SummerSlam.
Yep.
Well, except Money in the Bank, I think, is somewhere in that mix.
So next up is King and Queen of the Ring. Then you've got, for NXT Battleground, Clash at the Castle is June 15th. Then you've got Money in the Bank taking place from Toronto. That is July 6th. Then you've got NXT Heatwave July 7th. SummerSlam is in August.
Okay. Well, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of movement going towards that Money in the Bank because obviously that is a career-defining moment. So is King and Queen of the Ring. So because I think the winner is going to get a title shot too, that's what it should be as well.
Yeah, I think so.
So that being said, a lot of great things happen in WWE this week. A lot of great things happen in pro wrestling, period. So hit us up on the hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts about WWE Backlash? Did you love the show? Did you hate the show, and why? And what is your feelings on the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments? I know they're just starting, but who's your favorites to win? Let's have that discussion. And for even more pro wrestling talk, every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Nerd Initiative YouTube, Wrestling Night Live. So make sure to subscribe, check it out, and interact. But that's all said. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back.
Do you like comic books?
What about movies and TV shows?
Well, we may be the show for you.
We're Hops Geek News, a weekly podcast that discusses comics, movies, and TV shows while featuring a beer of the week.
Every week we chat about what we messed up on the week before, and then we dive into what we're reading and watching, as well as some news.
We then wrap it up with a geek-themed topic of the week.
You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts by searching Hops Geek News.
Cheers.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we got to talk some NBA action.
Basketball is my favorite sport.
I tell you what, the playoffs have a lot of storylines going on right now.
Yeah, they do.
And where do you even want to go? Because, I mean, I know we're going to obviously go into about the Knicks right now.
Well, that's a given.
Right. But I think the one that is jumping out to me the most is a certain team out of Minnesota.
Yeah.
And the emergence of a bona fide superstar. Whew. You can't say anything otherwise.
Well, I'm sure the folks in Phoenix and in Denver would, but you're wrong.
I'm sorry. I know. Shout out to Brian Wayne. Cheers to comics. You know we love you. But
yeah, we do.
Anthony Edwards
damn.
from the Minnesota Timberwolves has emerged with the ghost of Michael Jordan and just gone completely crazy in these playoffs.
Dude is playing like a man possessed.
Let's talk about it, Pat.
Yeah, so obviously in the first round of the NBA playoffs, they took on the sixth. They were the 3 seed. They took on the 6th seeded Phoenix Suns and swept, SWEPT, swept the Phoenix Suns 4-0. And then that put them on a collision course with the reigning, defending, undisputed NBA champs, the Denver Nuggets, who beat the Los Angeles Lakers 4-1 on a collision course. Number 3 and number 2, the defending champs versus an up-and-coming team. And right now, as we currently record, with Game 3 scheduled for Friday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, Minnesota's up 2-0. Holy hell.
No, let's rephrase it. They're blowing them out.
Okay, well, yes.
The first game was 106-99. That's being generous.
Yeah.
The second game, the fact that it was even this close, because at one point I believe it was a 40-point lead.
Probably.
Minnesota won 106-80. This is a true emergence of Anthony Edwards just taking over games and just going out of his way to carry a team, which, listen, is very solid. Minnesota is a solid team. But I know when we previewed this, we were not saying they're going to be running away with it as they were.
Yeah, so I pulled up the box scores. As you alluded to, Game 1 was a 106-99 point win for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Let's see. You had Karl Anthony Towns go for 20. Mike Conley went for 14. Anthony Edwards went for 40-3. And then off the bench, you had Reed go for 16. Not bad there. For Denver, you had Michael Porter Jr. go for 20. Jokic went for 32. Jamal Murray went for 17. About all worth mentioning there. Other people scored, but it's nothing really stellar. And then for game 2, it was a 106-80 point win with Karl Anthony Towns going for 27. Only 27 from Anthony Edwards in this game. Off game. And then off the bench, let's see. You had Reed go for 14. What is this? Alexander something?
Walker.
Alexander Walker went for 14 over on the Denver side. Aaron Gordon showed up scoring 20. Jokic only had 16. Then off the bench, you had Drew Holiday go for 13. About all worth mentioning there. Looked it up. For the 2024 playoffs, Anthony Edwards is currently averaging 32.3 points per game, 6.8 rebounds a game, and 5.8 assists per game, and that's through 6 games.
We have to apologize to our Minnesota fans. We are not familiar with the Timberwolves, to be honest with you.
We're not familiar with your game.
But I am now, and it's just seeing the way that Edwards is dissecting Denver.
Yeah.
And he is getting a lot of support. Karl Anthony Towns, when he's on point, he's on point.
Like, I know a lot of people were saying, oh, that's going to be a great dynamic duo.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just a case of, like, us living on the East Coast and them being in, like, the Midwest and up around, the Milwaukee area that, like, they're not featured as super lot, or if they are, I just don't pay attention to it.
Well,
but, like, I'm astounded at how good they are.
Let's face facts. You are right. We live on the East Coast. We don't get that much exposure to the West Coast unless it's like a Golden State or
right.
LA.
And admittedly, a lot of focus is put on Golden State and LA.
Right, because they're the marquee teams.
And that's what generates the clicks.
Minnesota has been very, very quiet in this run. Because for us, I mean, honestly, the last time they were this relevant, Kevin Garnett days.
In like the late 90s.
Yeah, so I mean, to see that, and it's not a shot against the organization, but it's just being honest, because for the general pop culture audience, which we are,
yeah,
this is catching us by storm, like the fact they got to number 3, but this was like when Sacramento did it last
year.
The
biggest thing I knew about Minnesota going into this season was, other than the Kevin Garnett thing, was that Alex Rodriguez was trying to buy them and that it failed. That was about all I knew about this team going into it. I knew Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards were there, but like past that, didn't know real much. I'm familiar now.
Oh, absolutely. I'm watching these guys, and I am impressed because they're playing very solid team basketball.
Yeah.
But it literally goes through Edwards. And seeing how he's attacking star players.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to get in somebody's face. He's not afraid to talk a little trash to him. He's just imposing his will. And to see him do this yet again. Like, doing it to the Suns is one thing. He's now caused them to be rumored to be imploding their team.
Yeah.
To see him do it to Denver.
Man is a one-man wrecking crew.
It's insane.
Okay, well, it's 2 men, but
yeah,
you got the idea.
But the whole thing is, in Denver, he's dissected them. He's literally punched them out.
Yeah.
And he's waiting for them to give a rebuttal. And the only thing that's getting done is, I'm going to be probably catching a lot of heat for this, Denver is trying everything in the book they can to disrupt his rhythm.
Right.
And you're seeing anything from a heating pad get thrown on the court, which did happen, to some very questionable fouls.
Yeah.
And that's showing to me there's a little bit of frustration with what's going on. And like I say, I don't think it was intentional, but you can definitely check about the heating pad. Like, that did happen.
Yeah.
But to see the star defending champions now looking in shambles.
Well, and you got some of their players getting a little frustrated because, what was it, Jamal Murray threw the heating pad?
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Like, like you can tell they're getting a little flustered and frustrated because I think they expected a fight and that it would go multiple games. Like, by no means was this going to be a sweep for either team. At least I don't think so.
Right.
But the fact that Denver's getting punched in the mouth like this.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
It's astonishing. But this is the emergence of a superstar. Like, we see this every so often in the playoffs.
Sure.
Because everybody remembers what you do in the postseason. Regular season's fine, but honestly, that's forgettable at times.
No chips, and I'm not talking the fucking mid-season tournament. No chips are handed out in the regular season.
Right. So to see
that whole tournament thing don't count.
I'll say this: if Minnesota gets up 3-0 on them, it's a wrap. Like, I'm sorry, there's no way they're going to be blowing it for 4.
Let's see.
And to see how this all plays out, like I say, it would be insane to see this all transpire.
Yeah.
For Jokic, I'm not going to say this is going to tarnish the legacy, but
it's going to a little chip in it.
Well, you have to think about how this is reflective. You went from being one of the most dominant teams in the league. You're the number 2 seed in the West.
Yeah.
And you get swept.
And it's not going to be easy because I just looked up Game 3, which I mentioned is this Friday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. It's in Minnesota. Game 4, potential, depending on how it goes, could be the potential final game in the series. Sunday, May 12th, 8 o'clock on TNT, also in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So Denver obviously has to win one of the next two, and that's not going to be easy because the Denver fans are going to be cheering like it's their job.
Oh, yeah. No, the Denver fans are going to be doing all they can, but Minnesota, to have that crowd, and trust me, it's going to be a sellout, it's going to be loud, it's going to be insane.
If it's not already, it will be by game time.
Oh, no question about this. I think this is arguably the biggest story in basketball right now, and that's saying something considering who we're going to talk about in the East. This crowd, if they wind up stealing Game 3 for Minnesota, it's a wrap. It's done. Denver will have a very long offseason because I don't think they're going to have a rebuttal punch.
Yeah.
I really don't think. Game 3 is now turned into Game 7 for them.
Essentially, yeah.
And if they don't pull it off, they are in desperate, desperate trouble.
Uh-huh.
That said,
yeah, then we got the other conference semifinals matchup going on in the West. Hasn't started yet, but it's the number 1 seeded Oklahoma City Thunder who got there by sweeping the New Orleans Pelicans, winning 4-1, taking on the 5th seeded Dallas Mavericks, who defeated the LA Clippers in the first round, winning that series 4-2. And of course, the interesting thing with this listing, you got an Oklahoma City Thunder playing very well, all the star power and all the potential they got there. At the same token, though, Kyrie fucking Irving. Holy shit. 26.5 points per game, 5.7 rebounds a game, and 4.7 assists in these playoffs. Got a lot of Brooklyn Nets fans going, where the fuck was this the last 3 years?
oh, that's the whole point. The Brooklyn experiment, we can go dissect at some point. That might be a great Patreon
That's
episode.
going to be a 30 for 30, I'm telling you.
I'm telling you, we might have to do that behind a paywall just to really break that one down. But to see Kyrie go off and finally emerge to being the superstar we know he's capable of.
Like, this is what we expected when he went to Brooklyn. Hell, this is what we expected when he went to Boston. We expected this in Boston, didn't really show up. Expected this in Brooklyn, didn't really show up. And now we've been waiting for this in Dallas, and it's been just, for whatever reason, it took till now for it to finally click.
I think because he's finally comfortable.
That could be.
Because this might sound a little awkward to say,
Yeah.
but I think he's good being in that 1B role.
Sure, which obviously Luka, 29.8 points per a game, 9.5 assists per game, and 8.8 rebounds a game in these playoffs. So you got two dudes in the starting five who are averaging, well, we'll round up just for courtesy's sake, they're averaging 30 a game. So there's 60 of your points.
Right.
Holy shit.
But with Doncic there, that does clean up a lot.
Yeah.
And that does take a lot of pressure off him. And
Yeah,
I
it
think
does.
you've seen that with LeBron. As much as you want to go through their history,
Yeah.
with LeBron there, he was allowed to fly under the radar and be a superstar.
And that's where he flourishes.
Yep. When he went to Boston, he was the marquee guy.
Yep.
Didn't work out. When he went to Brooklyn, Kevin Durant was hurt.
I was to say, when he was in Brooklyn, none of them were ever healthy long enough.
Right. So he wound up being the 1A, and I don't think he was ever comfortable with that. And I'm sure there was a lot of other stuff going on, not going to get into that.
Yeah.
Now being with Doncic, that is a very, very easy thing for him to settle in, that he does not need to be the superstar.
Right.
And then he can be a very, very solid partner and be a 1B. And I think he flourishes when he's like this.
Yeah.
So giving Doncic the help that he needs, huge.
Yeah.
But you also are going to have a solid 5 on this court because the one thing that really is gone very low-key underrated, you take a look at this Oklahoma City team. They're all young.
Yes.
They really are. We talk about playing with the house money, so to speak, at a casino. That's what they're doing because they weren't expected to be this good this early. The fact they're the number 1 seed, huge win for them. SGA and everybody else finally has their team ready to rock, and now they have the real test for them. I'm sorry, New Orleans was not a test for them. This is going to be the real test to see how they show up for this.
Yeah.
That's going to be a very, very key thing as well.
Yeah.
I think SGA needs some. He's going to need some help, though.
Yeah, because, listen, Dallas ain't no slouches.
Right. But he is going to need help. And you start taking a look at like who they have on their lineups. They do have a very solid team.
Yeah.
But to match up, they have to make sure 5 is greater than 2. I know math-wise it is.
Yeah.
But when you get on the court, they're really going to have somebody of this team really step up and really do as they need to do.
It's like having a Jedi in Star Wars. Jedi's worth like 1,000 soldiers in a battle. In the NBA, sometimes one dude is worth about 3 or 4.
Yeah. But that's what you're going to need with this team. And if you can get this out of them, it's a big win. Mm-hmm. It's an absolute monster win. But you need to strive for this. And you need to really have your team go in, show up, show out, and really put that pressure on them. I mean, they finally have Chet Holmgren, who's finally healthy.
Yep.
And he's now emerging. And then obviously, SGA, he'll do his thing.
Yep.
And then literally it's almost a pick your poison because everybody else kind of has a place to spot in there.
Yeah.
To find their role. So like I say, this is going to be something for Dallas to really have problems with, I think. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say it's a sweep, but I mean, you start taking a look at their starting lineup.
Yeah, I mean, there's their starters, according to the ESPN depth chart. SGA at the point guard, Josh Giddey, Luguentz Dort, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, and then also you got on the bench. I mean, you got Aaron Wiggins is still on the bench. Gordon Hayward's on the bench. So you got some decent secondary players that can come in a pinch if things ain't working right.
That's the whole thing. Like, they're very loaded. Jalen Williams, is very, very solid.
Yeah.
So this is a situation for Dallas, I should say, I think they're going to struggle with.
Yeah.
I think they're going to sneak a couple games out. This is going to go 6.
Yeah.
I like OKC.
I think so. So like I mentioned, game 1 is tonight as we record, May 7th, in Oklahoma City at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on TNT. Game 2 is Thursday, May 9th in Oklahoma City on ESPN. Game time not announced yet. Game 3 is Saturday, May 11th at Dallas. That is at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on ABC. Game 4 is Monday, May 13th in Dallas at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on TNT. And then after that is Game 5, 6, and 7, if necessary. And then it's on Wednesday, May 15th, Saturday, May 18th, and then Monday, May 20th, alternating between Oklahoma City, Dallas, and then Oklahoma City, respectively.
Yeah. So it's going to be a fun basketball. Like I say, I like OKC in this. I like them.
I do too.
I like them by 6.
Okay, I'm thinking the same thing. And then we got out east, and I'm really going to twist a knife. You really have to wait to talk about this one. Because first off is the number 1 seeded Boston Celtics, who defeated the Miami Heat 4-1 to advance into the conference semifinals, taking on the 4th seeded Cleveland Cavaliers, who defeated the Orlando Magic 4-3 to advance, taking on each other. Game starts tonight as we record, 7 o'clock Eastern on TNT.
Let's be honest. I mean, this might be a sweep.
It's good. Yeah.
Boston is playing at such an elite level.
When was the last time Boston played? Let's look that
It's
up.
been a while.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But this is a situation that Boston, I think, is not going to take lightly. I think that they understand the temp in the room.
They understood the assignment.
Well, that's the whole thing. They need to understand about this.
Last game Boston played was Game 5 of the first round, which was on Wednesday, May 1st. So essentially, they have not played in a week.
Right. So they're going to be well rested.
Yep.
They're going to come out. Jason Tatum, I expect to have a huge performance.
He's going to explode.
Yeah, because they know that. I mean, honestly, this is boom or bust for them.
This is do or die. Yeah.
Yeah, they have to win the chip this year. If they don't, I don't even want to think what's capable of this team.
Trade them all.
Well, you have to think. They've had a lot of moving parts here. Drew Holiday is with them now.
Yeah.
They're built to win now, and time is ticking. When you look at their starting lineup, that's what you have to kind of consider with this team.
Yeah.
That they've been so close, but yet they can't get the job done.
Well, no, the fact that you also remember Jason Tatum was drafted in the 2017 NBA draft. So we're over 5 years.
Easily.
At this point. So, but you look at the depth chart on ESPN.com for the said Boston Celtics. As soon as it loads here, there we go. Drew Holiday is their point guard. They got there. Derek White is there. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Kristaps Porzingis, who is currently listed as out. So, if I'm going next man up, they got Al Horford listed as the second string guy. So, we'll see.
He should have won the chip in Philly. Still staying on my soapbox about that. But I digress. I mean, this is the thing that Brown and Tatum and Holiday, they should be able to handle Cleveland. I love Cleveland, but I just don't think that
Boston's just way too good.
Yeah, this is just, they're on a whole different level right now.
This is like playing, high school football, and instead of playing one of your local teams, you go to schedule a preseason game just as a tune-up. Let's see how we are. Let's go up against some other talent we don't know, and you end up going against one of the academies.
Yeah,
that IMG Academy or something absurd like that, and it's you get your ass handed to you. That's what this is going to be.
I mean, sad but true, but
it's nothing against Cleveland, but just listen, Boston's on a whole different. They're on a whole different level. level.
I would love to see Donovan Mitchell and the guys pull the upset.
Sure.
I'd love to.
Sure.
But I think the
Makes
fact
it
that,
easier for the Knicks.
well, exactly. I would say if it could be Cleveland and New York in that finals, I'd be the happiest person on the planet right there. But I don't think it's going to be, unfortunately.
Probably
I think it's going to be Boston and New York. And well, I mean, I'm a realist about this.
Sure.
I mean, Boston should be in that finals.
Sure.
I hope I'm wrong, though.
And that's all we have for the NBA playoff talk. We'll see you next segment.
Yeah, about that.
Oh, right. There's that other series.
Well, there was a game that caused a little bit of controversy as we had the first game of the number 6 seeded Indiana Pacers taking on your beloved number 2 seed New York Knicks.
Little history between these two in terms of the playoffs.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
A very heated rivalry back in the greatest era of basketball in the 90s. And we might have that start building back up again. We might. Because, well, game 1 was very, very close, but not without controversy. And that is something we have to address. The Knicks won 121 to 117.
Yep.
This was a game that came down to the final minutes. Both teams played very, very tired and very sloppy, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
And then when you get to those final closing minutes,
Yep.
this is where you could definitely tell, in my opinion, fatigue set in.
Yeah.
And this is where you had Jalen Brunson, who has been doing literally everything in his physical power
Yeah.
to help the Knicks win. He just ran out of gas.
Yes, he did.
And he needs help earlier if they're going to succeed. Dante DiVincenzo hit a great three-pointer with, I want to say it was about like 40 seconds left to really set him over the top.
Sure.
But then the controversy starts because the Pacers get called for an offensive foul.
Yep. Well, and didn't they at one point get called for a kicking violation?
Yep.
Which wasn't a kick, but as they said on the broadcast, not reviewable.
Right. It's a weird scenario of events that happened. There was a ball that went out of bounds that was thrown at Brunson after he threw it at Halliburton. It didn't go his way. Like I say, we had a bunch of calls that got replayed and reversed. And the biggest one that didn't, though, was the Miles Turner offensive foul on DiVincenzo, which, listen, I'm not going to lie. In my opinion, he's winning an Academy Award for that one.
Yeah, he sold that one like
He sold it. He sold it.
Yeah.
But Turner did do the foul.
Oh, sure.
In my opinion, as a Knicks fan, the refs should not have called the foul.
Right.
It's very, very picky to call it.
Sure.
But it went the Knicks' way, and this helped them to get a very big win. And now the question I have, Pad, and you can be honest, I know you like to get me going when you talk about the Knicks. What are you expecting for Game 2?
Well, the thing I want to bring up, too, is, the Pacers kind of got screwed in a way, but they also screwed themselves because after that, I think it was after that occurred, because I flipped over to the game, I saw what the score was and how much time was left, and I watched the last minute or so, of game time. Real time was probably like 20. But that, I think it was after that you had where the Knicks were going to inbound the ball. And before they could inbound the ball, I think it was Brunson or somebody got wrapped up, or they got
Brunson.
They got grabbed, and that was a technical foul, which let Brunson go to the line. Who, side note, Brunson did not. I saw on the stat line they flashed up. Brunson did not miss a free throw all night, so it was already a close game and one that you already knew the Pacers would be fouling on every inbound the Knicks had just to try and keep the clock, and so that they could try and keep it close in that whole strategy. But they fouled Brunson, gave a technical foul. Brunson went to the line, shot the free throw, which put them up, I want to say 3. And then Knicks went to inbound the ball again, and because they got the ball off, they then fouled him again, and then Brunson went up to the line and hit another shot, and they put him up like at least 2 more. They put him, so they were then up 5 points. So, the Pacers got screwed, but also by fouling Brunson on the inbound, you screwed yourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Because you had a shot, and I think even the broadcasters were like, no, they had a shot, but then you did the stupid technical foul, and now you're essentially out of it. What was your question with the whole thing with Game 2?
No, what's your vibe going into this? Because, I think for me, the Knicks need to really have a lot of energy.
Sure.
Because the one great thing about this team and the bad thing about this team is they live and die by the Villanova 3.
That is true.
If DiVincenzo, Brunson, and Hart are not on point, this team is struggling.
Yeah.
these guys have been putting in a lot of minutes in each game.
That is true.
So it's a fearful situation for me as a Knicks fan.
Sure.
Because I could see tread on the tires coming into play.
Sure.
And if we get to a situation where they're running on fumes in the final 2 minutes of the game, you're going to see what happened in this game.
Yeah.
Because Brunson, as much as he got rest, he did get some.
Yeah.
He was also really showing the fatigue there.
Well, I think that's going to come down to the coaching staff and the medical staff and whatever, just to, in between games, get him as much rest and get him as conditioned as they can. As for game 2, if I'm the Knicks, hey, we're up 1-0, great. But treat it as that was a whole different series. That was a whole different game. This is another game. It doesn't matter. It's still 0-0. Because you cannot get into that sense of complacency where, hey, you know what? We're good. We're up 1-0. We got this on lock, because that's when you turn around and then it's the end of the game and all of a sudden you're losing and the series is tied. Or you're up 2 or 3 games to nothing. You're like, hey, we're up 3 games to nothing. We got this on lock. Next thing you know, you turn around and all of a sudden the series is tied and you're going into game 7.
Yeah.
You got to keep that foot on the pedal. You got to keep going and keep going for the finish, because until the final buzzer sounds and the game counter or whatever it is, the Knicks win series, whatever it ends up being, reads Knicks win series, it ain't over, and you cannot treat it as such until that buzzer sounds. For the Pacers, you can certainly use the what happened in game 1 as a little motivation to get screwed over, but let's not forget, game 2's in Madison Square Garden, so you're going right back into the Lions' den. That crowd is going to be loud. That crowd is going to be raucous. You have to steal one out of you. At some point, you're going to have to win, and this is true for as long as the Knicks go into the playoffs. Any of their opponents are going to have to win one in Madison Square Garden to have a shot. You saw the Pacers. Or not the Pacers, the 76ers did. They took them to game 6. It's finishing that job that needs to do it. Indiana wasn't able to do it. Could the Pacers do it? Anybody can on any given night, but theoretically, no.
Right, that's going to be the biggest bubble they got to do.
Yeah, that's the thing. Anybody in these playoffs is going to have to win a game in Madison Square Garden. And the Knicks have not been in the conference finals since what, like the late 90s?
It's been a while.
It's been a while. So the farther this team goes, the louder that crowd is going to be.
Yeah, so that's going to be something the Knicks are going to need to work on.
Yeah.
And they're going to need OG to really step up. They're really going to need a lot of their role players to have a great game, because if you play close to Indiana for game 2, I think they're going to steal one. I just hope they come in with a lot of energy. I hope they're feeding off the crowd. I really hope they get up for this.
Right.
Because I think they might have been a little victim of suffering from buying into their own hype a little bit.
It could be.
Because let's face it, once it was Indiana announced that they were going to be facing them, everybody already penciled them in to go face Boston.
Right.
You can't do that in these playoffs.
No, and especially with what was it? I can't remember if it was game 1 or if it was game 6 against the 76ers. All the Knicks legends were there. And they were getting all hyped up and they were getting all fired. Like, I can understand them buying into that, and I can understand them getting a little hyped by that. But that's where you got to like check your emotions and be like, all right, this is great and all, but we're still working.
Yeah. So they are going to need to put some work in, because obviously
The boogeyman is coming.
Yeah, Reggie Miller has announced he will be at the game.
Reading from an article on ESPN.com, quote, Reggie Miller will be back at Madison Square Garden nearly 29 years to the day after his legendary performance in the same building, and he has a light-hearted warning for New York Knicks fans. Quote, just know the boogeyman is coming back to town to call the game, Miller said half-jokingly during an interview on the Dan Patrick Show on Monday. Quote, I am coming.
That does scare me. As somebody that watched him play in the 90s, and a certain experience that he killed the Knicks in one game, or destroyed them, I should say.
About 30 seconds.
Yeah. If he can fire up the Pacers, that would be huge. But this is where the Knicks are going to need to dig deep. I think Brunson, who is making an argument for being the MVP.
He's in the conversation.
He's in the conversation. I think he needs to have a great performance, but he needs more help. And it can't all rely on him to get the spark going. They're going to need somebody else to do it. So if they can wind up doing this, it's going to be amazing. I'm excited to see it. And then, obviously, basketball at playoff time, like this is the time you really pay attention to the NBA. Yeah. So
it's the time I pay attention. That's for damn sure.
Exactly. So many great storylines going into these playoffs. Let's talk about it, shall we? Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts about the current state of the NBA playoffs? Who are you watching? Who are you rooting for? And let's talk about those series, shall we? But first, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
You ever wondered what comics Mark from Vale is into? What Zach from Left Behind's favorite MCU movies are? Well, Metalcore Nerds is the show for you. My name is Sean Mott, and here at Metalcore Nerds, we cover the latest things in pop culture, whether it be Star Wars, Marvel, DC, AEW, and everything else in between. You can listen to the show every Monday on Adobe Howl at 7 p.m. Eastern, or find it anywhere you find podcasts after it debuts on the radio station.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Time to talk a little UFC.
Hell yeah.
Let's talk about it, Pat.
Yeah, so this was UFC 301 taking place this past Saturday, May the 4th, down in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil at the Farmacy Arena. 14,514 fans in attendance. Hell of a crowd for the fight, with the headlining match being the flyweight division title being defended by Alexandra Pantoja. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's start with the first fight on the main card. That was the middleweight fight where Caio Borralho defeated Paul Craig via knockout at 2 minutes and 10 seconds of the second round.
Solid performance by KO.
Yeah.
Paul Craig, is a worthy contender.
Yeah.
But this is a very, very big win for him.
Yeah.
Curious to see where he goes after this.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a very solid fight. Nice way to kick off the main card.
And hell of a streak Caio's got going on here, because in 18 professional matches, he has a record of 16 wins, 1 loss, 1 no contest, has not lost a fight since his second professional fight, which was for a federation called Bradder Fight. That was for Bradder Fight 3 on July 18th, 2015. And then his 1 no contest took place a little bit later. I love the name of this crew, this federation. Vikings Fight Club.
Love it.
I love that name. Vikings. That was for Vikings Fight Club 2. That was ruled a no contest. That was down in Brazil. That was on June 16th of 2018. Everything before the loss, in between the loss and the no contest, and everything after the no contest is a win. The guy's got 5 knockout wins, 4 submission wins, 7 decision wins. So dude's on a hell of a run here. Gotta give him credit.
Yeah, he moved up 2 spots in the rankings to number 12.
Good for him.
Curious where he's going to go from here. Mm-hmm. Like, that would be the only thing. I don't really have a clear-cut path for him.
Sure.
I would not doubt him maybe getting a shot at maybe Jack Hermanson.
Sure.
I could see that.
Sure.
It just depends on really how they want to play it out, because I don't believe they fought each other.
Probably not.
So...
next up was another fight in the middleweight division. This was Michael Pereira defeated Ihor Potieria via guillotine choke submission at 54 seconds of the first round. So clearly Michael had someplace to be.
Yeah, Pereira is Pereira.
Yeah.
He is a very unorthodox fighter.
Yeah.
So this made a lot of sense for him to get the big W.
Yeah.
Just where he goes, like, he's another one that is kind of in that where we go from here kind of stage.
Yeah. Looking at, what is it, the middleweight division, he is currently
13.
So again, he was previously, it's a new ranking. He was previously not ranked. He is in 44 professional matches, has a record of 31 wins, 11 losses, 2 no contest. Good goddamn. Currently on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fight winning streak. Has not lost since there was a DQ against Diego Sanchez, or there was an illegal knee. That was on February 15th of 2020. Prior to that, lost to Tristan Connolly via unanimous decision. That was in September of 2019. Won every fight since those 2 fights. What is it? A rear naked choke submission, 1, 2, 3 unanimous decision wins, split decision, knockout win, rear naked choke submission win, and then the most recent, the guillotine choke submission. So, dude is on a hell of a roll.
He's on a hell of a roll. Maybe he fights Kyle. I could see that happening.
Sure.
That's the one situation here that when you're on the lower half of that rankings, you can do a lot of mix and matching.
Yeah, you could.
That fight could be very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Too. So I would not mind seeing that. But then again, it just depends. Like I say, Caio, I think, is on too big of a win streak that maybe they don't want to have 12 versus 13.
Sure.
But you know what? I think it makes sense to me, so we'll have to wait to see about that.
Then you had a match in the light heavyweight division where Anthony Smith defeated Vitor Petrino at 2 minutes of the first round with a guillotine choke submission.
Yeah, this one is great seeing Anthony Smith get the win.
Yeah.
There's a great article that's on ESPN.com about that, that he talks about, like, I'm terrified of retiring.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
When you've done one thing for so long, it's daunting and intimidating to potentially not be doing it, because holy fuck.
Yeah.
Dude has been fighting professionally since February 29th of 2008 where he won his first fight against a guy by the name of Dave Moran with an armbar submission at Victory FC 22 Ascension. Holy shit, that's a while.
Yeah. But to see what Smith has done, though, you take a look at who he's fought.
It's a long list.
It's a very long list. I mean, he was even fighting one John Bones Jones.
Glover Teixeira, John Jones, Volkan Ozdemir, Shogun, Rashad Evans, Thiago Santos. Let's see who else is in this list. Johnny Walker's in there as well. There's a Khalil Roundtree Jr. There's a few names in here.
Yeah, he's a guy that has always shown up. And there's times he's looked great, and there's times he's looked, I don't want to say lost, because I think that's very, very harsh. But I think that he sometimes gets in his own head when he's in the cage.
Could be.
And it's a situation that, like, when he's on point, he's a very dangerous fighter.
Yeah.
I just don't know, like, in his situation, there's a couple different fights I think you could go with him about, but it really depends on, like, where you're leaning, because he's at number 10.
Right.
I mean, you could really have him dance around and get somebody else in that 6 to 8 range.
Yeah.
Boost up. Depends on what you want to do there.
Yeah.
But it's like he's been around so many times, like he's already fought everybody, it feels like.
Yeah.
So.
And for Vitor, hey, it's his first bump in the road. He's 26 years old. It's his first loss in his professional career. 12 matches, 11 wins, 1 loss. Hadn't lost a fight up to this point. So, hey, it's his first bump in the road. We'll see how he bounces back from it.
Yeah. Like I say, he's got a lot of fight time left.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. But, I mean, huge win for Anthony Smith. And then, like I say, I'm not doubting he gets somebody in that 6 to 8 range.
Yeah.
I mean, Krylov might be a great fight for him, too.
Then you get to the co-main event of the evening, which was in the bantamweight division with the ageless wonder, Jose Aldo, 37 years old, taking on Jonathan Martinez. And you had Jose Aldo emerge victorious, defeating Jonathan Martinez via unanimous decision. All 3 judges scoring the contest 30-27.
It is wild for me to comprehend at this age that Jose Aldo
Fucking Christ.
is still fighting, let alone he's cutting weight.
Yeah.
At 37 years old, he's cutting weight to
Yeah.
get down to 135.
So his first fight, first professional fight, I'm not saying amateur because that's not listed.
Sure.
But first professional fight was August 10th, 2004. For Echo Fight Championship, the Echo Fight Championship 1. He defeated a gentleman by the name of Mario Bigola with a head kick knockout. That was in 18 seconds of the first round.
Wow.
The dude's first fight was right before my sophomore year of high school. It was that long ago.
And he's put on
Jesus.
a legendary career. He was one of the first breakout stars from the WEC. And I remember he took out Cub Swanson in one of the craziest flying knees I've ever seen in fighting history.
I mean, just listen to this run he was on. Beat Uriah Faber. Then he went on a couple fights. He beat Kenny Florian, Chad Mendez, Frankie Edgar, Korean Zombie, Chad Mendez again. His first real shocking loss, because up to this point, his only loss was in his, 8th fight in his career. That was for a federation called Jungle Fight in November 2005. He would not lose another fight for 10 years. And his next loss was Conor McGregor in December 2015.
And that one was closer than people realize. But it really showed his dominance at 145. He was king of the featherweights. There's no question about it. So to see him now fighting at 135, and I don't think that that's a good weight for him personally. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
He did not. The first time I saw him fight at 135, I didn't think he looked good.
First one was Marlon Moraes at UFC 245.
Yeah.
Lost that fight.
I didn't think. I thought it was too much of a cut. He is a perfect 155, but in that weight class at this age, it doesn't make sense. To see him get the win here, that's huge. But the issue is and I know I repeat this a lot, because the one thing out of this card, there wasn't a clear cut, this is next.
Yeah.
Especially with Aldo.
Yeah.
Because you have to consider he's at the end of his UFC contract.
Reportedly.
He's currently ranked number 8 in that bantamweight division. Can he go and fight anybody 1 through 7? Or, I mean, I know that there's a lot of people talking about possibly him jumping the line and getting Sean O'Malley.
I mean, listen, if you want to book that, I'm not going to complain. I know some folks are going, it's jumping the line, but fucking Jose Aldo.
Right.
I can, and I'm looking at his record since his bantamweight debut, which, like I said, Marlon Moraes split decision loss in December 2019. He's fought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fights at bantamweight. He's won 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. So we'll say 50-50 split,
Sure.
just for simplicity's sake. So mixed bag. So like I can see that and I'd be like, all right, sure, fine. Is it line jumping? Yes. Would it make sense in other cases? No, but this is Jose fucking Aldo. Like I can understand this.
Right, but like I say, the problem you got is Mira beat him.
Yeah, that's true.
So unless Mira doesn't want the fight, which I mean, I can't see him saying no.
Yeah, I don't see why.
Like I say, you can't really mess with that too much. So
Right.
it is a little scary to see about what could happen.
Yeah.
But it's also, I guess what makes the biggest box office.
Sure.
Because I mean, let's
Well,
face it.
Aldo versus anybody is box office.
But if you think about it,
Sure.
Sean O'Malley is a very marketable fighter.
Yeah.
Say what you will about him,
Yeah.
but he is a character
I mean, I'm looking at the
in the right ways.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the rankings and just who's ahead of Aldo without getting all the way to. Because I think if you talk champ or the top two, that's obviously box office. That'll sell tickets like hotcakes.
Sure.
You got Peter Yan at number 3. I think that'd be a good fight. I think you could market that and sell that. 4 is Marlon Vera. Again, good fight. 5, Henry Cejudo. That wouldn't be too bad. And then you've got Davison Figueiredo at number 6 and Song Yadong at number 7. I think any of those guys, 3 through 7 is a good matchup for him.
I think this. If you're not going to give Aldo the title shot, because he is a more marketable name than Mirab, even though I think Mirab is long overdue to get that title shot. I want to stress that's my first preference. If you're not going to give Aldo that fight, I give him Figueiredo.
Sure.
Because you have a great history of champions. Mm-hmm. Figueiredo was the flyweight monster for quite some time.
That is true.
Had some struggles with weight cut, if memory serves me right. Correct me if I'm wrong. Hashtag ODPH pod. But you have champion versus former champion.
Yeah.
It sells itself.
Yeah.
I think you could do that one. And then if you wanted to say after that fight, he goes up to fight O'Malley, I could stomach that a little better.
Sure.
But it depends. Like if you want to give Aldo and O'Malley, it's box office, people will tune in.
Yeah.
And the only thing I'd be a little wearisome if I'm O'Malley is if Aldo finds the Aldo of old and leg kicks him to death. Just look at Uriah Faber's leg. Do a Google search after their fight. Like I said, he killed that leg. So, or I should say unalived. So apologies. Either way, this is a question for the UFC that they're going to have to make if he's now a free agent. He does have options. I know boxing is on the table. I don't think that's good at his age.
No, 37. No.
I mean, there is places for it. And granted, depending on where he wants to go, I think he'd be very successful.
Yeah.
But I think for his legacy, going out in the UFC or going to the PFL would make sense.
Sure.
PFL would be a bigger
PFL I could see.
Bigger landing spot, I think, for him at this age. But if he stays in the UFC, I wouldn't be mad about it. And then you have to figure out, okay, who's the best fight here?
Right.
Figueiredo, I think, would make a lot of sense. And then you got the main event.
Yeah, the main event was for the UFC Flyweight Championship with Alexandra Pantoja defending his belt against Steve Eric. And you had Pantoja emerge victorious, winning by unanimous decision. 2 judges scoring the contest 48-47. The third judge scoring the contest 49-46.
So can we take a look at the judges' scorecard?
I can indeed. I have that pulled up, courtesy of the folks over at UFC.com. Fun fact for the fans, if you want to see the judges' scorecards after the card's taking place, you can Google search the event name and then scorecard, and you can find that. So looking at the scorecard, let me blow this up a little bit because it's real freaking small on the page. You got the 3 judges. The first judge scored the contest 48-47, as I alluded to, giving the first, third, and fifth round to Pantoja. Obviously, then gave the second and fourth round to Steve Eric. The second judge gave the first, third, and fifth round to Alexandra Pantoja and gave the second and fourth round to Steve Eric. The third judge gave the first, second, third, and fifth round to Alexandra Pantoja and only gave the fourth round to Steve Eric.
Yeah, see, I argue about that one for the second round.
Okay.
I mean, I think Eric won it.
Okay.
I think Pantoja is, in my opinion, and I know I was talking to Megan from Vigilante Vibes podcast, shout out to Megan, was saying the same thing. Pantoja looked gassed.
Sure.
He did not exactly look that great going into those later rounds.
Right.
So, I mean, I would have gone split, and I think I've been okay with it. I don't think it's unanimous.
Right.
But nevertheless, Pantoja wins. And I just don't think, like I say, this was a performance that was really, a dominant one, so to speak.
Right.
It's just very hard to tell about where we rank him as a champion. Like, he's a great champion, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
He goes out and he fights no matter what.
Right.
But you start taking a look at, like, okay, who's next? And, like, when we start thinking of, like, dominant champions.
Right.
I don't know if he's in that discussion yet, in my opinion.
So I pulled up the stats, again, UFC.com, and I'm breaking them down by round. The first round, total strikes goes to Pantoja, 34-19. Pantoja had 2 takedowns. His opponent had none. Then significant strikes also goes to Pantoja, 30-17. Go to the second round. Again, it's Pantoja, 27 strikes to 30. Well, excuse me, got it backwards. His opponent had 33 total strikes to Pantoja's 27. 3 takedowns from Pantoja as to none from his opponent. 1 reversal for his opponent. Then you had 28 significant strikes from his opponent, Steve Eric, to 23 from Pantoja. Round 3, again. This one goes to Pantoja, 37 strikes to 26, 3 takedowns to none in favor of Pantoja. Significant strikes is in Pantoja's favor again, 34-22. Round 4, that one is eked out by Steve Eric, 31-23. Also, same number for significant strikes. And then you get to round 5. That one goes just barely to Alexandra Pantoja, 22-20 in total strikes. Tied in takedowns, both 1 apiece. And then significant strikes is just barely Pantoja by 15-13.
Yeah, like I say, it wasn't dominant by any means.
Right.
So it just depends on how you want to judge it, but I didn't think he looked great coming out of that second round.
Yeah, I mean, and then you look at the full fight total strikes. It's Pantoja 55%, just eking ahead with 143-129.
Yeah. So we'll have to see who's next for him.
Yeah.
But it's almost in a situation of, where are we going with the flyweight division?
Right.
Am I saying to get rid of it? No, by no means.
Mm-hmm.
It's still great fighters there.
Right.
It just depends on what makes the most sense for a marketing standpoint and rankings, because you still have Royval and Moreno still there.
Right. I'm looking at Pantoja's record here. He has fought Brandon Royval. He beat him by unanimous decision. That was back in December of 2023. Brandon Moreno, he also beat the fight before Royval. He won by split decision. That was back in July of 2023. If you want, I could say just because it was a split decision, if you want to run it back against Moreno, okay.
Yeah,
split decision win. It's not exactly dominant, kind of squeaked out there with the winning. I could see that.
Yeah, I think that would make some sense too.
Sure.
Excuse
me, Royval he beat twice. He beat Royval by a rear naked choke submission back in August of 2021.
Or Makaev, I could see getting the shot. There's a few fighters there that I think could. It just depends on where they ultimately want to go with this.
Right.
And that's the big question mark about it. So we'll have to wait and see. So, unfortunately, UFC 301, great fights.
A lot of questions, though.
But a lot of questions coming out of it. There's no clear cut, we're going here, this is next.
Right.
I think the biggest X factor to sum it up, Pat, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is Aldo.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, is the biggest question is where is Aldo going to go? And if he sticks with UFC, what are they going to do?
Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see how this all plays out, but still a very, very solid night of action.
Yeah.
So hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. What's your thoughts about UFC 301? Give us your takes on the fights. Do you agree with us? Do you not? Because we can definitely deep dive about it a little bit. Like I say, it was a solid night of fights. It wasn't anything that was super blowaway.
Yeah, you didn't wake up the next morning going, "Oh my God, did you see this?"
Yeah, like I say, I have more questions than answers for this.
Sure.
But I definitely don't mind talking with everybody about it. So hit us up, let us know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is Tom from Tom Joe Lou,
This is Matt from Sidemen Sounds.
and you're listening to ODPH Podcast.
Wanna go where no one knows my name, to the desert, the oceans, or the plains. 'Cause I wanna...
Coming back for the final segment of this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pat, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about. The first of which is obviously the local minute, and looking at the Binghamton Black Bears. They are in the finals for the 2024 Commissioner's Cup. That is the cup they're playing for in the Federal Prospects Hockey League. They are currently taking on the Carolina Thunderbirds, and they had 2 games this past weekend. It's a best-of-5 series. First game was Friday, May 3rd, on the road in Carolina, where they came out with the victory 5-3.
Let's go.
Came back Saturday, May the 4th, 7:35 p.m. Eastern, against the Carolina Thunderbirds in Carolina. came out with the victory again, 4-3. So if my math is correct, best of 5 series, they only need one more win.
One more win,
and they win the cup. That game could potentially be one of these few dates. Next game confirmed is Friday, May 10th, 7 o'clock Eastern. That will be here in Binghamton. If necessary, if they don't pick up the win Friday, there is a game scheduled for Saturday, May 11th. Again, if necessary, that would be 7 o'clock Eastern in Binghamton. And then if all else fails and we go to game 5, again, if necessary, there is a game scheduled for Sunday, May 12th at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern here in Binghamton. So for more tickets, all that information, BinghamtonBlackBears.com. But let's hope it doesn't get to Sunday.
No, let's hope they finish it off Friday night.
Also, let's hope we have another parade in Binghamton, because I went to the last one for when the Binghamton Senators were here. I got wicked sunburned. I had a wicked headache, but I had a ton of fun.
But it was the Calder Cup.
That was true. It was a Calder Cup. A lot of fun.
Yes.
Then we got to talk some Binghamton Rumble Ponies news, because looking at the standings there, they're still sitting third place in the Eastern League division here in AA. They're behind Portland, the Boston affiliate, who's really doing well, 16-9, and behind Hartford, the Colorado affiliate, who is 14-11. But they're ahead of Somerset, the Yankees affiliate, Reading, the Philly affiliate, and New Hampshire, who is the Toronto affiliate. So looking at their schedule from this past week, they had a home series against the Hartford Yard Goats. The game on Tuesday, the 30th, was postponed due to inclement weather, was made up the next day on Wednesday as part of a doubleheader. Unfortunately, they lost both games. Lost the first game by the final score of 4-3, and the second game by the final score of 4-2. Came back on Thursday, though, won that game by the final score of 2-1, won on Friday by the final score of 7-2. Saturday, they won again by the final score of 2-0, and the game on Sunday was canceled due to inclement weather. There's no makeup date announced for that, so we'll see if that happens at some point down the road or not. Right. For their games this upcoming week, they're on the road. They have a 3, 4, 5, 6 game series against the Portland Sea Dogs up in Portland, so that will be going on. They return home, however, on Tuesday, May 14th against Bowie. Mm-hmm. So out of town this week, back home next week. But if you want to get tickets or more information ahead of time, bingrp.com.
Yeah, definitely exciting time to get down to the stadium.
Absolutely. And we're going to stick with a little bit of baseball, because this might be the most asinine, boneheaded comment I've heard in baseball in quite some time.
Oh, boy.
And listen, I understand you got to stick up for your team and you can't exactly shit talk them, but you also got to be fucking realistic. Reading from an article on thescore.com says, quote, Houston Astros general manager Dana Brown said he can't envision being a seller at the trade deadline being a shocking 12-22 start to the season. Quote, the ball club is too good, Brown told MLB Network's Brian Kenny. We have a really good rotation. We have a really good bullpen. Our bats are a little bit off to a slow start. I think the production's coming. I think our guys are too professional. They're good players. I can't predict any scenario where we become sellers. I think this team is too good, close quote. Now, let's give the Devils their due. They have made 7 straight American League Championship Series appearances, won the World Series in 2017, asterisk, and 2022.
Yep.
But they've got a bunch of injuries with their starting rotation, and then Alex Bregman, among others, are fucking terrible. But like we said, fucking reality check here, my guy. Looking at the American League West standings, you got Texas Rangers in first place doing a 20-16, Seattle Mariners in second place at 19-16, Oakland at third with 17-19, Houston's in fourth place at 12-22. And only the Angels are behind them at 12-23. So you're in fourth place in your own division, 7 games out of that. Oh, by the way, you look at the wild card standings and you are 8 games out of the wild card standings. And oh, by the way, you've got the 4th worst record in baseball. Mm-hmm. On what planet are the team is just too good?
Yeah.
What are you talking about, my guy? Like, stop drinking the Kool-Aid.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is they don't want to put out the false sense of security, even though we all know it. I mean, because that would cause so much controversy in that locker room. I get it, but I agree with you, Pat. I mean, their team is bad.
Yeah.
And we love seeing that here at the ODPH.
We do. And then I'm going to talk a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of sports here, because there was a documentary announced coming to Peacock. This documentary is coming on. Let me scroll to the end of the video here, because I actually don't remember when this is taking place. This is taking place May 16th, coming to Peacock, and it is titled Bronx Zoo 90, Crime, Chaos, and Baseball.
I can't wait to see this.
So this, the reading from the description, or the synopsis, I should say, on the YouTube video, it says, Bronx Zoo 90, Crime, Chaos, and Baseball is the astonishing true story of the 1990 New York Yankees, chronicling the team at a crossroads in their storied history. The season went on record as one of the worst and was made even more infamous by the drama that ensued off the field. Based on a series of articles from New York Post columnist Joel Sherman, the docuseries covers the team owner George Steinbrenner's removal from baseball for trying to buy information on Dave Winfield from a notorious gambler. Adding to the chaos, beloved team captain Don Mattingly was caught in a contentious contract dispute. A top free agent signee went missing. Rookie Deion Sanders wavered between two sports, and a controversial outfielder pursued a relationship with a local high school girl. Despite it all, the 1990s Yankees laid the groundwork for one of the greatest dynasties in sports history, close quote. So this team was fucking terrible. I mean, you look at the standings.
This was train wreck to watch.
This is back before expansion, so there was just American League East, American League West, National League East, National League West. But in the American League East, the Yankees finished in last place with a record of 67-95. And I'm looking at the standings on baseballreference.com. That is tied for the Atlanta Braves with the worst record in baseball that year. So clearly didn't make the playoffs in any capacity whatsoever, and the wild card wasn't a thing, so there's no chance of them even getting in that way. But definitely check out the trailer if you're on the fence, because I know they interview, Michael Kay's interviewed for this. Susan Waldman, who does the radio play-by-play, is interviewed for this. I know a bunch of former players are interviewed. I think like Don Mattingly's interviewed at one point. Like there's a whole bunch of former players interviewed on this, and this just seems wild.
This is insane. To watch that team growing up.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my youth right there.
Sure.
And that team was hot garbage. Like, it was just insane of how bad they were.
Yeah.
And every day they'd be in the tabloids about something.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was just wild to watch.
And that was the thing. George loved his tabloids.
Oh, yeah. No, they were in the Post and the Daily News every day for something.
Not good reasons.
No, that's not even worth doing the reason sounder for. I am definitely camped out to watch this.
I am too.
Yeah, no question about that. And let's cap off everything talking about some playoff hockey. The only game series that everybody needs to know about is those New York Rangers coming out defiantly in Game 1 of their series against the Carolina Hurricanes, winning 4-3. Very impressive performance by Mika Zibanejad and the team, which, like I said, Mika came into playoff Mika mode with 2 goals and 1 assist. The only thing got a little scary is they kind of coasted a little bit in that end period, but they pulled it out at the end. They really showed some grit. And this is not going to be an easy series by any stretch of the imagination. Carolina is ready for them. They're going to test them with all they can. Game 2 is tonight as we record, so it's Blue Shirt Nation, stand the puck up. Let's freaking go. The cup is ours, and that is all I need to say about that.
Real quick, other hockey news, because the NHL draft lottery just went down as we were recording. The San Jose Sharks won the number 1 overall pick.
Really?
For the upcoming draft. The Blackhawks, Ducks, and Blue Jackets round out the top 4.
Interesting. San Jose has. I got to ask a good friend of ours, Kevin Molson, about that. I can't remember the last time they got a pick that high.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. But that has been the week in sports for anything and everything that is the ODPH. You can find it at odphpodcast.com. Like we said, that's it for this week. So for the one and only Padawan J,
fuck the Astros.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.
It's such waste of time swiping left and swiping right on people you could know. Cause anyone who's worth a damn be worth way more than a picture could ever show. You could find the right light, find the right angle, and never find your soul. And it can feel like a losing battle, and this plot is full of holes. This modern way of finding love just makes me feel so alone. And I can't be the only one sick of staring at my phone. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me, we don't have old time fable. Everyone has just one true love. All I know is you're across this table, and you're all I'm thinking of. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me, we don't have to float alone on the open sea. Talk to me. Talk to me. It's such waste of time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know.